I'm sure a lot of you have seen this interview with Frank Warren. This was released on September 1st on IFL TV, where he said that if AJ relinquishes or is stripped to the WBO heavyweight title, then Usyk will fight Daniel Dubois for the vacant belt. And this was said in the wake of the WBO elevating Daniel Dubois to number 2 in their heavyweight rankings following his TKO victory over Schneiders. I forget the guy's first name. Now, obviously, this is an absurd thing for the WBO to do. I mean, we're used to sanctioning bodies doing things like this, but it doesn't make it any less absurd when it happens. Because if you look at the guys below Daniel Dubois, they have far better resumes than he does. I mean, you're talking about people like Joseph Parker, former world heavyweight champion, Kubrat Pulev, who's got wins over people like Derek Chisora, Huey Fury, etc. Andy Ruiz, who's got a win over Anthony Joshua, a guy who was unified heavyweight champion last year. Michael Hunter has got wins over Sergey Kuzmin. He had that draw of Alexander Povetkin. Derek Chisora. Even Joe Joyce has got a better resume than Daniel Dubois. So how on earth can the WBO justify putting Daniel Dubois in at number 2 after he beat the dangerous Schneiders, right? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. How on earth can they justify putting him there? It's outrageous that sanctioning bodies do stuff like this. Now, what we know is that Frank Warren has had a very, let me just say, good, quote unquote, relationship with the WBO by his own admission since the early 90s when the WBO was first formed. For those of you who don't know, the WBO struggled when they first, when they first became an organization. They struggled to gain recognition. They were seen in a similar way to how the IBO is seen today, as not a real legitimate sanctioning body. And that's how the majority of the boxing world, the boxing press, even the fighters themselves viewed the WBO, like a Mickey Mouse belt. Frank Warren, again, by his own admission, helped to legitimize the WBO as a sanctioning body by having his fighters fight for their titles. Now, I don't know the behind the scenes process, if there is any, that results in Frank Warren's fighters, in some instances, getting unduly high rankings. I'm not suggesting there's any kind of impropriety going on. Okay, so I don't want to get any letters from Mr. Warren's lawyers, but I'm just baffled, WBO, and I'm baffled, Mr. Warren, how Dubois and another one of Frank Warren's fighters in the past, Anthony Yarde, are able to get so high in the rankings when there are people below them who have much better resumes. It just baffles me. How is that possible? Now, with Anthony Yarde, he ended up getting a shot against Sergey Kovalev. And look, he fought gallantly. And for a guy with such little experience, he did very, very well. But that's the key, isn't it? Experience. If he'd been given more meaningful fights and more experience, perhaps he would have beaten Kovalev rather than just putting up a good effort. And I know Frank Warren, leading up to that fight, said, well, if we'd waited and given him more experience, then the Kovalev fight might not have been there for him. Somebody else might have beaten Kovalev, or he could have retired. Well, yeah, you could say that, but you could also say that instead of putting him in against all those cream puffs and road sweepers, you could have just put him in with better fighters. And so therefore he would have reached the same stage he reached where he got the Kovalev fight, but he just would have had better fighters on his resume rather than the cream puffs he'd been fed. You understand? So they still could have done it in the same time frame and got him to that Sergey Kovalev shot, but they just would have prepared him better, given him better experience to give him a better chance to actually have won that fight. Is the same thing happening here with Daniel Dubois, where he's been put in a position where he's literally a step away from challenging for the heavyweight title? But who's he fought to prepare him for an Usyk in a final eliminator, or an Usyk in a fight for the vacant belt, or an Anthony Joshua, or whoever else is out there, Tyson Fury, whoever. Who has Daniel Dubois fought to prepare him for that level of competition? Nobody. So is Frank Warren making a mistake here with Daniel Dubois, putting him in with the type of competition he's been putting him in with and getting him to the point where he's on the brink of fighting Usyk? And Warren's talking about putting him in there with Usyk. He's talking about putting him in there with, Dylan White and Anthony Joshua and all these kind of people. It's like either Frank Warren believes in Daniel Dubois to an incredible degree, or he doesn't. That's the only way to explain this, because if he really doesn't believe in Daniel Dubois, then it's a case of trying to make him look like he's the truth and the next best thing, and basically cashing him out when you get into a title fight situation. Or he believes in him to such a crazy degree that he doesn't feel like he even needs to put him in there against decent opposition before he fights for a title. He thinks maybe he genuinely believes that Dubois can beat all these guys now. You let me know what you think in the comment section below about what is really going on in Frank Warren's head when he's talking about putting Dubois in with all these people. Is that truly belief in his man? Or is he actually trying to con the public a little bit and maybe just cash Dubois out? I don't know what's going on, but I just do find it curious that he's talking about putting Dubois in with guys like that when he's got such a thin resume, such little experience. I would want my fighter, and obviously Frank Warren as a promoter, been very successful and he's been very good at guiding fighters over the years. Okay. So he's got a track record that I certainly don't have, but I've still got an opinion. And as well as Frank Warren has done in the past with guiding many fighters, this right here doesn't seem like classic Frank Warren. Neither did the Anthony Yarde situation. Frank Warren typically would like his fighters to win British, Commonwealth, European, and he'd like them to take on good tests before he put them in for world titles. Whereas with Daniel Dubois, he fought Nathan Gorman, and I applaud that fight. But other than that, and since Nathan Gorman, the level of opposition for Dubois has been going down. So, yes, they're still talking about this Joe Joyce fight, but if they can't get crowds in, Frank Warren's talking about pushing the fight back and pushing the fight back. And who says Joe Joyce is going to wait? Who says Dubois is going to want to wait? I mean, the way Frank Warren's talking at the moment, this Dubois-Usyk fight might have more chance of happening than Dubois versus Joyce. Is Dubois ready for Usyk? Dubois, a talented young fighter, kind of stiff, robotic, good jab, obviously very strong and powerful. Usyk has fought people like that before in the amateurs, in the World Series of Boxing. He sparred people like that. Usyk went over to, I think it was Germany, where Vladimir Klitschko had his camp. And according to reports, he embarrassed Vladimir Klitschko so badly in their sparring session that Vladimir kicked everybody out of the gym so that they couldn't see him having all these issues with Alexander Usyk. So if he's able, and look, I know that's sparring, but Usyk is vastly experienced, far more experienced as an amateur and a pro than Dubois is. And there might only be 2 fights between them in terms of total number, but look at the level Usyk's been fighting at compared to Dubois. So this is a vastly experienced fighter. Yeah, he's small, and I can understand that maybe you want to take a risk against a skilled guy who's much smaller and less powerful than your guy. But the skill level is definitely in Usyk's favor, and the experience is in his favor. And if Daniel Dubois becomes WBO champion, he's then going to have to defend, right? I mean, look who's there at the moment. You got Parker, you got Pulev, you got Ruiz. Is Daniel Dubois even ready for these fights based upon who he's faced so far? Parker's been in there against AJ. He's been in there against Ruiz. He's been in there against Dylan White. Pulev has been in there against Klitschko. He's been in there against Chisora. He's been in there against, various different people. Andy Ruiz, all of these guys. Is Dubois even ready for them? What is going on with the way his career is being moved? Strange is all I can say. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think about this situation where Dubois has managed to get a number 2 ranking with the WBO? What's that all about? What processes have taken place behind the scenes that have brought this about? Because it's absurd, okay? What processes brought that about? How do you think Daniel Dubois would fare against Usyk, against AJ, or against any of the other guys in the WBO top 10? Let me know in the comment section below, people. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.